Hello everyone. I did not realize just how quickly my morning flew by, and before I knew it, my husband was ready for his dinner. So anyways, since I just really didn't think much about it, what I am going to make is some yellow squash flatbread. It's quick, it's easy, and yeah, let me show you how I'm going to do this. I thought that I would share this recipe with everyone because most of the ingredients in this recipe you already have growing in your garden. And what you need is one large or two smaller yellow squash, and two or three green onions, a lemon, some cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes, which, yeah, I have an overabundance of, some fresh basil, some fresh mozzarella, and some, I believe they're called peptas. Is that what they're called? They're the green pumpkin seeds that you get. Yeah, they're supposed to be so good for you. Yeah, those. And just a little bit of chili flakes and yeah, a couple teaspoons of honey. And that's all it's going to take. Oh, but yeah, can't forget the main part. Flatbread. So yeah, I like to use these because it's just a really easy recipe, especially if you're making for like 2 to 4 people. So you're going to need a couple of those. So anyways, I'll show you what we're going to do. What we basically want are kind of, like half moons, I guess is what it is. So we're just going to cut down the middle and very easily just slice these into little half moons. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to thinly slice our scallions. Whoops. Mine were starting to get a little old, so I'm not going to be using the tops. So I'm going to, yeah, it rained here last night, so my basil is just like really, really wet. Just pick off some of the leaves. Now, for our cherry tomatoes, we're just going to cut them in half. So what we're going to do here is just put a drizzle of oil into a skillet, and I preheat my oven to 450 degrees, and this you're going to want to have in your center rack and maybe even a little bit higher because you don't want to burn your flatbread. And right now what we're going to do is just add those scallions. Cook this until you can kind of smell that fragrance coming up. Now these have only been cooking for about a minute, but I can smell them. So it's time to add our yellow squash. And this is going to cook probably for about 5 minutes or so. Well, I thought maybe I lost one, but I didn't. Until they are softened and kind of lightly browned. Meanwhile, while our yellow squash is browning, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of oil to my salad here. And this is just some mixed greens, that's all there is. And a few of my tomatoes, and a squeeze of lime. Mix that up. Season with some salt and pepper. Might need to add more oil depending on how much lettuce you have. I think mine is pretty good. I'm losing my salad here. And I'm just going to set this in the refrigerator to keep chilled. As you can see, my zucchini or my yellow squash, that is coming along nicely. It's just about done. And of course, I lost one. And since these are nearly done, I am going to go ahead and very, very lightly add just a little bit of oil. You don't even have to do this step, but I like the way it crisps it up. So I've turned my heat off. I'm just going to push these to the side so I have a place to work. And we're going to put our zucchini on top of this, our flatbreads. So now I'm going to take some broken up fresh mozzarella and put on top. And you're just going to put the amount of mozzarella that you like on. This is really all just to your own taste. And the reason why I didn't put all those on is because I didn't want it to get to the point where it was just going to fall off when I went to take them out of the oven. So I'll just put those on our plates when we're done. So I'm going to stick this in the oven, and this is going to cook for about 10 to 12 minutes. And the cheese is going to get all bubbly, and these are going to turn a little bit more golden brown. And yeah, I'll show you what that looks like. Now here are our flatbreads right out of the hot oven. This is a half of one, so this is actually one complete flatbread. And now what we're going to do is scatter some of that chopped basil that I have, that fresh basil, just a little bit. I probably should have chopped mine a little bit smaller. And some of our pumpkin seeds. Now on my husband's, I'm going to put a little bit of chili flakes on his, because he likes it hot. And a drizzle of honey. And what I did, since I had so many great tomatoes, is I went ahead and I used the same pan that I fried up the yellow squash in, and I just put some of those halves of tomatoes in there and kind of fried them up in a little bit of olive oil to add to our supper here, and we are good to go. Doesn't that look good? And this is another meal that is done in about 30 minutes. When you're making dinner at 11 o'clock in the morning, yeah, you need it to be 30 minutes or less. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you'll give it a try. And I'll talk to all of you in just a little while. Today's devotion, we are going to be in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 11 through 13. This is a faithful saying, for if we died with him, we shall also live with him. If we endure, we shall also reign with him. If we deny him, he will also deny us. If we are faithless, he remains faithful. He cannot deny himself. With God, there is a direct link between the difficulties we have as believers and the joy and the glory that wait ahead for us. If we endure, we will also reign with him. Now, it's wrong to understand these verses as though it's saying that by our sufferings and our hardships that we win a reward. That's never the case with scriptures. We do not merit anything from God, ever. No amount of faithful service puts God in our debt and obligates him to give us a reward. What these verses are telling us is that this is a test of the reality of our faith. If we really are Christ's, if he has genuinely come to dwell within us, that fact will always manifest itself by our willingness to suffer with him. We become willing to give up things, to purposefully set ourselves against the allurements and the temptations of the world and live a different lifestyle. This is the manifestation of a true Christian life. If we have the genuine desire to live for Christ, then in all actuality, we can be certain that we shall reign with him because we belong to him. But if we're not willing,
If the moment our Christianity begins to pinch a little bit, if we are asked to give up something that we enjoy doing and live in a way that is not biblical, if we cringe at being laughed at or made fun of and would rather blend in and go along with what the world says, we need to wonder if that is not telling us that our Christianity is a fraud. As the last part of verse 12 tells us, if we deny him, he also will deny us. Jesus knows what is real and what is not real about us. Anyone who will give up their Christianity when pressure comes, if their life isn't going as they hoped or planned, or if doubt and confusion becomes overwhelming and everything you thought you believed seems to be crashing in around you, if when the moments of pressure comes, and it will, we willingly give Christianity up, then he who has always known the truth about us will say to us, as we're told in Matthew 7, verse 23, and then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. And remember what we're told in 1 John 2, verse 19. They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would have continued with us. But they went out that it might become plain that they all are not of us. But then we come to verse 13. If we are faithless, he remains faithful. This is a verse that is dear to my own heart, because the Lord recognizes that even when we do have his life in us and we are willing to suffer, there will be times when we give in. Often we are weak and we fail and we fumble in our faith. Much like Peter when he denied the Lord, yet he will remain faithful. He will remain faithful, for he cannot deny himself. If he is in us, he will hold us safe until the end. He will restore us. He will bring us back. He will labor through and in wonderful ways to turn us away from that which has temporarily derailed us. He will bring us back at last to humility, to repentance and confession, and bring us to restoration so that we continue our walk with him by grace. And with that, I want to remind you, life happens. Let's enjoy it. And I am so thankful for the promise that whoever believes in Jesus shall have everlasting life, even if or when we are unfaithful at times. I read that we can translate the opening word of today's verse, if, with the word although, because it is also the Greek word for although. Think about that. Although we are faithless, he will remain faithful, for he cannot deny himself. God bless. I hope everybody has a wonderful week and will have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you again next week.